The fire escape alongside the old Bevan Hotel, which is still there, and you can see the old apparatus. This is an old pumper truck, and the volunteers are coming into the front of the Manor Inn, and that is the interior scenes there shot are actually the Flint Park Playhouse, which is still there, and the men are putting tarpaulins out over the furniture to preserve the furniture and save the furniture from water damage as much as possible. And you can see, I mean, the equipment, and when I first got into the department, that's what we wore, and sometimes in a hot fire it was pretty warm. What you'll see now that they're simulating that the water is coming down through the roof, and they're going to make a chute to shoot the water, and this is still done. The tarpaulins now that are used are a lot lighter. They're similar that you see all around town when people have new roofs put on their house. The ones we use are that light blue vinyl. And that is a wax paraffin canvas, which was very, very heavy. Sometimes some of those tarpaulin packs, the larger ones, required two people to carry them. But you can see there he's made a chute, and the water is coming down, and it's going right down and then out the window. And that's still done today. We try, as we put fires out, that's one of our main concerns too, is to all fire departments to limit the damage, and because these people are our neighbors. In those days too, there was no communication such as walkie-talkies or anything, and the fire chief worked very closely with the police department. And he is calling now, simulating that we're calling for an out-of-town mutual response, and he called to the Larchmont police station, and the Larchmont police station now is calling the town of Mamaroneck Fire Department to come and respond. And there are some spectators there, and I think I was a little boy in that crowd myself. That was in front of the library where they had us line up for that, to be spectators at the fire. That smoke there is the side of the Manor House up on Prospect and Elm Avenue. At that time, during World War II, the house was vacant. So they used to use it for a lot of fire drills there. I think you're going to see a simulated man jumping out of the, if we still run the tape that long, jumping out into an old-fashioned net, which are not carried any longer by the apparatus because of the bucket trucks and the versatility of the modern ladders. But they're raising an old, what they call a Bangor ladder, and that ladder was 50 feet tall. It took 6 men to put it up, and they will do the rescue out of the window, and I think one of the gentlemen jumps off into a net. And the film, as I stated earlier, the film looks like it's color, but it's actually 16 millimeter black and white film, which has turned and changed. And fortunately, we had this converted to videotape, and it's the only copy around. I mean, it's over 50 years old. I think it was in the summer of 1945, just before the end of World War II, when this was shot. And most of these fellas are the fellas that stayed home, that didn't go away to war during World War II. Yeah, there's the net that they're putting out, and they'll have a gentleman jump into it. You had to be very careful holding that net too, because if you didn't hold it properly, you could break your thumb or break an arm when somebody dropped down. And you always had to keep, one gentleman would have to keep his eyes up, watching where the victim would be jumping so that he could move the net in the proper place, because sometimes in a panic the people would jump out and actually miss the net and hit the fireman, so they try to protect that. But also there's a little dramatic license here. Some of the volunteers are in their uniform. That's the uniform of the patrol company, the fire patrol company. And you can see that's a resuscitator by 50 years ago. Today we have defibrillators are carried on our pumper, and you have more modern resuscitation equipment. Also at today's fire would have a fire of large magnitude. The volunteer ambulance services from the town and Larchmont Volunteer Ambulance Corps would be there to supplement us and help us with any rescue operations. Plus our professional firefighters are all trained EMTs who would also take over and perform immediate life support to the victim. But you can see that they're doing an old-fashioned prone artificial resuscitation there on that gentleman. But you look at it now and 50 years ago and put everything in its perspective. There were volunteers then and there are volunteers today, and they're all your neighbors and friends who are doing all of this. The professional people who augment these gentlemen are trained far better than the gentlemen were in those years. Right now they're packing up. It's the end of the fire, and they're putting the hose back on the truck. And I used to know many of these gentlemen that were in this picture. I knew as a little boy, and they got me interested in joining the fire department. And unfortunately, I think almost every one of them there is passed on. There's no one left, and but they were the backbone of the volunteer fire department. And hopefully that we keep on with the spirit and energy that they had. And I think in making a comparison, our gentlemen today are far greater trained, better trained, because there are greater facilities for them to train. And in those days, there were no training academies, and there wasn't mandated training by the state, and they all had to do it on their own. And they used to follow recognized practices and everything, but they didn't have the mandated courses up in Valhalla and having the instructors come down there and doing the training that they do today. But the spirit was still there, you know. You can the enthusiasm, and this was during World War II. Most of I think 3 volunteer firemen that went away to service during World War II were killed in the line of duty, and a lot of the younger fellas were in the Pacific or in the European theater of operation, and these were the gentlemen. Most of these gentlemen were all in their late 30s and 40s, as compared to the fellas that we're getting today. And of course, the war did prohibit the gentlemen coming back. But that's the apparatus now coming back.